It would be another day and another campfire. The first one was so exciting. Peter and his partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, they had been fishing all night long. No success. No harvest, no profit, no business. And a voice from the shore had called out and asked them, have you caught any fish? And the simple answer was no. The voice said, why don't you try a little further? Move further into the deep and cast your nets again. It didn't make any sense. They were fishermen. They knew what they were doing. This had been their lifelong career, multiple generations in James and John's life. They knew what they were doing. There weren't fish to catch. The voice had enough authority that it caught their attention, and they said, what the heck, we'll try again. And they cast the net out deeper. And in the first few moments, the nets began to vibrate. They began to move, began to thrash. The water began to turn, and the nets were filled to overflowing. And Peter turned to Jesus. Said, you need to get away from me. I'm a sinful man. And Jesus just took him and loved him and called him. Peter, you're going to follow me, and I'm going to make you a catcher of men. How exciting to meet the Son of God. How exciting to hear God's voice. How exciting to be in that moment with him. And life change began to take place and began to unfold. And literally the excitement of it is hardly containable. That was just a short 2.5 years. They had been together. They had seen miracles. So many great things had happened. But yet, as often is the case, maybe it's the stress of the situation. Maybe it's the chaos of the moment. Maybe it's the uncertainty of what's unfolding. Maybe it's the pressure of culture. Maybe it's the pressure of family. There is this second fire. It was cold that evening. And so those who were there at the high priest's palace, those who were in that moment, began to build a fire. Simon, who we would later know as Peter, stood by that fire when a simple question was asked. Don't you know this man? Weren't you with him? And in that moment, the pressure of 1,000 avalanches, 100 earthquakes fell on Peter, and he said, no, I do not know him. Some time passed, still by the fire, and another one says, I was there. I was there tonight when they arrested Jesus. I'm sure I saw you. I'm sure you were with him. And Peter responds, no, I don't know him. And then the third most crushing moment in the darkness of that evening, a young girl, probably no more than 14, 15 years old, looks at Peter and says, I'm sure you were with him. You know him. And Peter responds for a third time, no, I don't know him. What crushing devastation. How can it get to this place? How can something so exciting as meeting God, knowing God, having a relationship with him, being involved with him, being a part of his ministry, being a part of the things he's doing, how can something so thrilling, so amazing, so overwhelming with his love, how could it in this one brief moment all be cast aside, all pushed away? And whatever successes there might have been, have in this one moment been completely ruined. And now there's just devastation. There's loss. Potentially doubt, potentially questions. Yes, I knew Jesus. I mean, Peter had the physical advantage over us. He had walked with Jesus. He had listened to Jesus. He had been side by side. He had set up moments and been a part of those great days. He was there when Jesus shared that sermon that would become the Sermon on the Mount and such a quintessential expression of God's desire. Peter was backstage. He was a roadie for that event. He had been there over and over again, full of confidence, full of just the excitement. I know God. He loves me. He cares for me. He wants me to be with him. And now in this one moment, the trial of Peter's lifetime. Oh, yeah, it was inside the trial of Jesus. But on the outside, it was Peter's trial. You know him. You're one of those ones who follows him. No, I don't know him. How does that happen? Is it the pressure? Is it the stress? Is it the fear? What happens in that moment? Yes, I'm sure I saw you. You know him. No, I don't. But you were there just a few hours ago. We were together in the garden. I saw you with him as he was arrested. You were there. Oh yeah, Peter was there. He was bold. He was strong. Jesus had told him to bring a sword for that moment for defense, and Peter quickly wielded that sword to use it to defend the Savior he loves, the teacher he follows, the master he listens to, the God who intervened in life to save him, forgive him, and give him true life. Peter was there, bold. All those images go through his mind, and his response was, no, I do not know him. How does that even happen? How can you walk away from something you're so sure about? How does that even take place? Well, the events of the last few days have been difficult to process. In the crucifixion moment, all the disciples, except John, disappeared. They may not have been as bold and as vocal as Peter was during the trial of Jesus, but they just weren't there. The only record we have is of John, the sentimental one, the somewhat quiet one. We know he was there because in the last moments of Jesus' life, literally with his last breaths, with his last ability to speak, he looked at John and said, John. And he looked over at his mother And he stared at Mary in her eyes, and then he turned to John and stared in his eyes and said, John, this is your mother. John took on the mantle of responsibility for taking care of Mary. He was there. And then, what do we do? How do we hide? How does this moment that unfolds, every expectation we have has been ruined? And yet in our hiding, Jesus appeared, validated, and showed what Peter knew when he walked into an empty grave, what Peter knew in his heart because he had heard Jesus claim it. Jesus wasn't still in the grave. What did Mary say the angel said? Jesus is alive. And Jesus appears. At least twice, according to John, Jesus had appeared. They knew he was alive. Maybe it would make sense in the moment because it was so frightening, because it was so stressful, because it was so confusing, because their world had been literally turned upside down. Maybe it made sense in that moment, but Jesus has appeared to them twice. And this morning, on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, Peter looks up and says to the rest of them, I'm going fishing. 2.5 years. The only time we know that he was ever in a boat. Jesus called him out onto the waves and Peter walked on water. 2.5 years. Hadn't picked up a net. Had given that vocation up to follow Jesus. And yet on this morning, Peter says, I'm going fishing. No, he's not going to the bay. He's not fly fishing for reds. He's going back to his old job. Still just not sure. Probably overwhelmed with grief, overwhelmed with guilt and uncertainty now at a whole different level because Jesus was in fact still alive and Peter had denied him. We make the mistake of thinking that life change happens in a moment and never contemplating the reality that that moment is life change and that change has to be and needs to be sustained throughout life. And a life has dark campfires and dark moments and questions and accusations and opportunities to deny what we know to be the truth, to succumb to sin, to succumb to temptation. No, I don't know him. But when Jesus changes our life, it's a permanent change. And at another campfire, on another day, Peter is about to understand this life change is forever. Regardless of my mistakes, my difficulties, my sin, my problems, Jesus is not and will not leave me or send me back. And it's at that campfire we pick up Peter's story in John chapter 21. And I want to take just a few minutes this morning to walk through that passage and look at those events as they unfold and encourage us as well as challenge us with the reality that once I meet Jesus, my life is changed. Once I know Jesus, I am excited and I am thrilled. I get baptized. I become an active part of a church. Life is changed. Life is different. Life is new. And even if in a moment I forget that, and I sin, and I deny the truth of who Jesus is, there is hope for me. In John chapter 21, we have this story after the resurrection. And it says that after this, Jesus revealed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, which is the Sea of Galilee. He revealed himself in this way: Simon Peter, Thomas called twin, Nathanael from Cana of Galilee, Zebedee's sons, and 2 others of his disciples were together. "I'm going fishing," Simon Peter said to them. "We're coming with you," they told him. They went out, got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. When daybreak came, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not know it was Jesus. "Friends," Jesus called to them, "you don't have any fish, do you?" "No," they answered. "Cast the net on the right side of the boat," he told them, "and you'll find some." So they did. And they were unable to haul it in because of the large number of fish. The disciple, the one Jesus loved, said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tied his outer clothing around him, for he had taken it off, and he plunged into the sea. Since they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards away, the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. And when they got on land, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish laying on it and bread. "Bring some of the fish you have caught," Jesus told them. We talked about invitations to encounter Jesus last week. And we follow that this week with ongoing invitations to encounter Jesus. Here is the reality that Jesus shows up for us. He is here for us. And he keeps coming back, and he keeps loving, and he keeps embracing and being a part of our lives. Jesus gives us the invitation to continue coming with him. I mean, what a difficult morning. What a hard morning it was. And Peter reverts back to the only thing he knows, the only thing he really understands, the only thing that takes place. I'm going to go fishing. I mean, after all, if you had been in Jesus' presence and you said to someone else, "I don't know him," how excited would you be to see Jesus? And if you had done it not just once, but you had done it 3 different times, "I don't know him." I mean, you'd be excited that he was resurrected from the grave. You would be excited that the angel said he's not dead, he is alive, and he is in Galilee waiting to see you. But you would know, I let him go. I let him down. How many of us have experienced this? The excitement of meeting Jesus, the excitement of becoming involved with Jesus, and then in that moment, when all the pressures succumb and we give in, whatever the nature of the sin, it doesn't matter. It is denial of the truth of who Jesus is and the way he changed my life. And is there any going forward? And Jesus shows us, yes. He's still giving invitations to encounter him. He's still showing up for us. We have these ongoing moments to encounter Jesus. We have these ongoing moments that we get to spend time with Jesus and we get to interact with him. The dawn of a new day. Fishing all night long, going back into the things that they knew to do before because it made sense. That's what they'd done all their lives. We know for a fact James and Zebedee were multi-generational professional fishermen. They'd gone back to the things that they understood and knew. But not everybody was in that category. Peter was there. He was a fisherman. It was his idea. Let's go back to fishing. We have no record that Nathaniel, we have no record that Thomas, we're pretty sure Thomas wasn't a fisherman. Pretty sure these other guys listed here weren't fishermen. And Peter said, let's just go fish. The rest of them just said, okay, we don't have anything better to do today. And Jesus shows up. Because Jesus is unwilling to let the life change we had and experienced with him to be aborted and forgotten and to consider it unsuccessful and unmeaningful. And so he invites us. He comes in. In the next verse, down in verse 9 and 10, Jesus engages with them. Bring some of the fish you have caught, Jesus told them. So Simon Peter climbed up, hauled the net ashore full of large fish. John was so nice to give us the inventory, 153 of them. Even though there were so many, the net wasn't torn. And I love this. Come and have breakfast, Jesus told them. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? Because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took bread, and gave it to them. He did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. See, Jesus not only invites us to continue encountering him, but he creates the moments for us to encounter him. Because when we have significantly hurt someone else, when we have significantly dashed all of our dreams on the breakers and the shore, and we have sunk our ships, so to speak, we give up. And we assume there is no hope, that this is the end. I don't think I'm the only one in this room that's had those moments. I became a Christian. My life was changed. It was dramatically changed. And when God revealed it to me that he had heard my prayer and he had come into my life and he was a part of my life, I was ready to do absolutely anything for him, except be pure, except be righteous, except go anywhere regardless of the cost. And so I failed. Failed multiple times. I mean, I can't hold it against Peter that he wanted to go back to fishing. I cannot tell you how many times in the 43 years I have been a pastor, I have thought to myself, late at night, usually after looking at our checkbook, why didn't I stay in law school? Why did I go to seminary? Why didn't I follow my path to be a politician where I could be handsomely paid to listen to people's complaints instead of sacrificing to listen to people's complaints? How many times have I said, let's go fishing? And yet Jesus keeps loving, Jesus keeps caring, keeps inviting, and keeps creating the moments. Come and have breakfast. Jesus wants to be with us. Even when we failed, even when we've made mistakes, Jesus wants to be with us. He wants to spend that time with us. And ultimately, we'll see at the end of this passage, if you're familiar with it, you know how it ends. It's a happy ending. Jesus will restore Peter. You know, Carrie understands this. She does this. I was looking through my calendar. I was scheduling some things. As Pastor Josh mentioned, we're closed next week. We're giving everybody the week off. Just let them be with their family. It's been a difficult year for most of our staff. And we're just going to give them some extra time off this next week, let them relax some. But I am a self-confessed, acknowledged workaholic. And so I've already scheduled meetings and appointments and things on both Monday and Tuesday, and I'm looking to schedule Wednesday. I mean, I get it. So I'm looking ahead at the next couple of weeks, and I run across an appointment in my calendar. It just simply says activity scheduled. That's all it says, activity scheduled. No location, no definition, just activity scheduled. Well, there is only one person on earth that has access to my calendar other than me, and that is Carrie, my wife. So she intentionally scheduled time with me to do something. I'm really thinking I need to release my Outlook password to Jesus. I might do better as a Christian if I let him have my calendar sometimes and let him schedule time. James, on this day, let's have breakfast. Because how many times over my lifetime have I left Jesus sitting at the campfire because I had these other things? In fact, Peter will be called on that in the next section. When they had eaten breakfast, verse 15, Jesus asked Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? This is one of those moments I wish I could FaceTime in time. What was Jesus' gestures at that moment? What is more than these? Did he point to the boats? After all, Peter, who was called to be a catcher of men, had gone back to catching fish. Peter, do you love me more than these boats? Do you love me more than your career? Do you love me more than your occupation? Do you love me more than your ability to provide for your family? Peter, what was it, the sea? Did he just point out over this huge, gigantic lake, which is called the Sea of Galilee? Did he point out to the water and say, Peter, do you love me more than this? I mean, how many cheesy, corny folk songs have been written about sailors who just love the sea more than anything on land? Brandy's still waiting. I mean, do you love me more than this? Did he point to the other disciples? The whole gang's together. Everybody's guilty together. They're all there. Even the non-fishermen are there. Do you love me more than this? Do you love me more than your friends? Do you love me more than this community? What? Then I have to ask myself, as I acknowledged last week, I struggle with Peter because I see so much of myself in Peter. If Jesus asked me this morning over breakfast, do you love me more than these? What is he pointing to? Is he pointing to the accumulative wealth over a lifetime to make me feel secure instead of just trusting him? Is he pointing to my house? Is he pointing to my schedule? Is he pointing to that work that I love so much? Is he pointing to you? James, do you love me more than Roy? Do you love me more than Larry? Do you love me more than Ron? Do you love me more than Casey? What are the these in my life that are robbing me of my time with Jesus? Peter, do you love me more than these? And Peter's answer is accurate. It's on point. Yes. Yes, Lord. You know that I love you. A second time, Jesus commissions him, feed my lambs, and ask again, Simon, son of John. It's coincidental and interesting, obviously on purpose, that Jesus is using Peter's pre-conversion, pre-life change name. Simon, do you love me? Well, it's changed now. It's not do you love me more than these, but do you love me? After all, the invitation to life change was a very personal life change. Trust me. Follow me. Do you love me more than these? Do you love me? And Peter's answer is what I think the majority of us would say, yes. Again, yes, Lord. I love you. And Peter says, shepherd my sheep. A third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter's grieved this time, obviously. 3 times. Do you love me? Do you love me more than these? And Peter says, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus says, feed my sheep. This is what we call calling. There's an ongoing calling in our life. Jesus sends us. Experiencing life change isn't just one moment. It is the entirety of our life. It is all of the experiences wrapped up, all of our failures and all of our successes, all of our denials, and yes, all of our declarations and affirmations. He sends us. He didn't change our lives in a static moment to just remain the same. It's ongoing. And yes, it's not perfect. And yes, it's messy. And yes, oftentimes made with poor choices and bad decisions. But it doesn't disqualify us. If anybody was ever disqualified, it was Peter. And now Jesus is saying to Peter, do you love me? And Peter's saying, yes. Yes, in spite of it all, I still love you. And Jesus is saying, okay, then in spite of it all, still serve me. Still shepherd my sheep. Still feed my lambs. Still follow me to the very last moment. Jesus is giving purpose. He's giving value. He's giving direction. And it's to the very last moment. Sometimes the longer you've been a Christian, the harder it is to recapture that passion. The harder it is to understand exactly what we're supposed to do. I get this question almost weekly from our oldest segment of the congregation. When I call them or I go by to see them, they're in their house. Oftentimes they're trapped in a bed. They've been Bible study teachers. They've been on church staffs. They've been youth leaders. They've been volunteers. They've been on mission trips, but now they can't go anywhere. And they ask me, Pastor, why am I still here? I don't have a good answer. But what I know, as long as we breathe, Jesus is still sending us. I can't answer all the questions, but I am confident, and I'm confident that John shares this story with us so that we would know that life change is forever. And we could anticipate and look forward to a moment and a place in time and a place in eternity where the struggles of life change are no longer struggles. We're not going to be perfect here. Never. At no point in time will we attain perfection here. But there is coming a place, and there is coming a moment when all is perfect. When mortality is shed and immortality is the new definition. When weakness is shed and strength is the new definition. When the victory of Jesus is fulfilled in every possible way in my life. And in that moment, I am home. I am well. And I have fulfilled the calling, the purpose, the sending that Jesus initiated. And those campfire moments that he created. And he promises that kind of guidance. He promises to stay with us. Truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you would tie your belt and walk wherever you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will tie you and carry you where you don't want to go. Jesus is speaking to Peter. John told us that he said this to indicate by what kind of death Peter would glorify God until the very last breath. Jesus has changed my life, and I have the opportunity to glorify him. So Jesus' conclusion at the end of verse 19, after saying this, he told him, follow me. I am never going to promise you that if you meet Jesus for the first time, everything's going to be perfect. Because it's not. But I am going to promise on God's behalf that if you meet Jesus for the very first time, he will always be here, always be with us, and he will never let us down. Everything else can and will fail, including us. But Jesus keeps inviting. He creates campfires for us in those moments to be with him because he has a purpose for us and he has no intention to ever leave. He loves us till the very end. The safest and most secure decision you'll make is to trust Jesus, and life change will continue. Father,